Hi there. I have gotten quite the interesting email recently. Let's check it out. This is your recruitment letter for the Unreasonable Wargaming 2025 challenge. Hi Artie. I really like your channel and would be very happy if we could work together in some way. That is flattering and surprising, and honestly I didn't think anyone would notice or know that I exist or my channel exists, so that is quite nice. Until I kept on reading. We have a campaign coming up that I thought you would be great for, based specifically on your time-based painting challenges. I'm getting typecast now. We want you to push some parts of wargaming to its limits. For example, how spindly can you make a 3D printed dryad? So what can I do? Miniatures as spindly as they can be. I've always wanted to have an epic-sized army for Warhammer, and this excuse is as good as any. I would also finally have a second Warhammer army, which was the excuse of my best friend to not hop back into the old world with me. But I would have to paint it in 2 days, as he's leaving for family visit soon. Well, I think that's as extreme as I can make it, without the need for a lawyer. Let's do it. Extreme Challenge. I've always been fascinated by massed armies. Lots of infantry, lots of models. So I always wanted to create an army with more miniatures on one base, just to simulate a massive army. So I hopped into the 3D builder, scaled those blood letters down by 50%, and I wanted to make sure that they actually fit on a 30 by 30 base, because I'm still going to use this army with the native rule set of Warhammer the Old World. And here you can see the first concept and how I would imagine the army to look like. I'm loving it already. Unfortunately, this also meant that I had to rescale and resupport every single miniature I wanted to print. Because scaling down pre-supported minis by 50% usually kills every valid pre-supporting. And while I was doing that, I wanted to talk a little bit about why I chose demons. You see, roughly 17 years ago, I got my best friend into playing Warhammer, which is, as you all know, quite a terrible thing to do. But after the sunsetting of Warhammer Fantasy, we sort of deviated a little bit away from playing war games. And even though we played Star Wars Armada and Legion in the meantime, I was unable to persuade him to hop back into Old World when it came out. And the main issue is that we both pulled a Benjamin Button when it comes to our mental age. While I decided about 2 years ago to fully hop back into wargaming and miniature painting, basically the stuff that I did as a teenager, he went back into playing World of Warcraft. So as the good friend that I am, I took it upon myself to drag him out of that hole that he gotten himself into by summoning some demons, which is one of his favorite armies and also one that he had and played back then. But to drag my friend back into the light, I had to print these miniatures first. And Fohammer and Wargamer resin from Yes-That's 3D Printed were nice enough to send me over some bottles so I can print those models. By the way, awesome brand name, cause yes, that is 3D printed, is literally what I say every 2 weeks when I play in my local wargaming club. Which means I owe them a lot of money. I mostly say that in German, it's fine. Anyway, to the 3D printer! You might wonder why I didn't show you any printing process footage or post-processing those miniatures, and the reason is quite simple. I nearly lost my mind. Because creating a mini-me army consisting of 114 miniatures is all fun and games until you get to the point where you have to desupport all of them, while most parts that you're handling are thinner than your bloody fingernail. So I was afraid that if I would show you that footage, then YouTube will flag this video as containing self-harm. And right away I noticed one minor detail. I multiplied all those miniatures that I needed by 2, except for the infantry. Initially I was planning on 2 1250 point armies fighting against each other, each containing 2 infantry regiments. But after the experience of 5 hours of miniature post-processing, I did the only reasonable thing a man can do. I opened up New Recruit, deleted those 2 regiments, and found out that both armies at 1000 points are still legal. But don't tell my best friend. So I ventured on and assembled both armies. And if you keep thinking, well, those miniatures aren't that small, and this guy just has freakishly huge hands, here's a crisp $1 bill and the tiniest plague bearer you have ever seen. By the way, Adam from Yes That's 3D Printed told me that their resin is quite flexible, but anyone can claim that. Okay, fine, I believe them. I almost finished assembling my army, but this little potato was in quite a odd squatting position. So I created a little stone for him to sit on. And while I had my green stuff out, I crudely remodeled some legs on those blood letters that unfortunately were too thin to be printed properly. And here are my 2 demon armies, ready to be painted. Having multiple miniatures on the same base, it's just so cool. I also put a 3rd miniature on a base that is supposed to be a champion, and also a 3rd miniature on a base where I have a standard bearer, just to make them stand out a little bit more. But no time to waste. To the airbrush. I started out, like I do, with a black primer. And even though those miniatures aren't that large, so there's little surface area to paint, it still took me quite a while to do so, because I had to be very careful to prime all these deeper parts and recesses. Because we want those shadows to be looking good after all. Then I zenithal highlighted every single miniature with a light grey, which all in all took me about 3 hours. Then it was time to dry brush everything with a white to bring out those highlights. And let me tell you, with those tiny models, I've never been this gentle and tactile with my touch in my life. But let me tell you, after assembling those miniatures for 4 hours and then painting for another 4, you are bound to make a mistake. And well, that's the first casualty. But I was able to glue it back on again. And that's definitely not going to come back to bite me in the ass when I'm going to paint those swords. So I dry brushed for another hour, coming up to 2. And yeah, you guessed it. Literally the last miniature that I was painting that day. And with that sword reattached, I was ready to call it a day. Next morning, up bright and early, I was fired up to paint some corn demons. And I drenched each and every single model from top to bottom. As those demons are quite forgiving, at least when it comes to painting. Everything that isn't skin, I'm going to paint with a true metallic paint, which will literally cover everything. So I didn't have to be mindful where I put the paint, which obviously allowed me to paint everything quite quickly. I really like the skin color that I chose for those little corn demons, not a right-in-your-face red. I generally like my miniatures to be a little bit more muted. Then I painted those wings orangish, which was quite tricky to film there. The wing position compared to my camera position just didn't match. I then prepared every armor surface by painting it with a dull grey brownish paint, as I'm planning on just straight dry brushing over it later on, to give the armor a gritty, gnarly look. So I painted those juggernauts and the armor of that bloodthirster. Then all that was left to do was paint all the horns and fur. And I went with a dark grey on that, which created a nice contrast in combination with the red skin. Oh, yeah, I also painted the skulls in the meantime on that big bloody axe. And all of that only took me about 1.5 hours. Now it was time to give those little Nurgle boys some love. I literally had no idea where I was going with that. All I knew is that I don't like the greenish skin on Nurgle units. I definitely wanted to go for a ashen, sickly, greyish kind of thing. So I mixed those two paints together, and once again I went ahead and covered every single chubby surface that I could find. And yes, there is still a little bit of green in that mixture, but it is not right in your face greenish. It's sickly greyish greenish. Leave me alone. But enough about that. And to be honest, at this point I still really had no idea where I was going with those Nurgle units. I just let the muses take me, if I'm honest. So I chose this yellow. And usually I would make an adjective now out of a word to make it sound more cutesy. You know, like when you have the word smell and you add an Y to it at the end, so it's smelly. It doesn't work with pus. At least not if you want to get monetized. Anyway, I painted literally every pustule I could find with this pus-esque color. And I mean literally every single one. But the end result didn't make me happy. It was too dull. So I thought to myself, you know what? This needs more magenta. So I painted it on like a wash and then quickly wiped the excess away from the top of those little pustules. And all of a sudden it transformed it from dull to gorgeous. You know, on a that's sick kind of level. And I actually liked the inflamed look so much that I went ahead and painted every single edge of every wound that I could find the same way. And at that point I completely forgot all the hardship that I had to endure the day before, the desupporting, the assembly, etc. Those colors went so well together and I was just having so much fun painting those miniatures. So I thought to myself, why not purple? Bring purple into the mix. So I mixed those two together and painted the exposed flesh purple. And while I was at it, I also painted those rotfly wings purple. And of course, some tongues and whatever the hell appendages. Then I created a filter from the same purple and glazed those deeper shadows on this great unclean one. Then a quick mani and pedi. And don't forget the horns and the big sword. In the end I also highlighted those teeth. But those gorgeous Nurgle units came at a cost and added 4 hours of painting time. But I wasn't entirely done yet. Both armies are still missing the true metallic metal parts. So out came the silver and I painted as gently as possible every single sword. And well, no, you go away. I didn't break a single sword this time. I then dry brushed the larger metallic parts on the greater demons and the juggernauts. And I think it came out quite nicely. It's very gritty, but still a little bit too shiny for my taste. So I washed down those swords with a black shade for the corn demons and a brown shade for the Nurgle demons. And I also applied a brassy looking speed paint on all those corn demon armor parts. And also the juggernauts. But that's it. All demons painted. 11 hours in, but it's finally done. And this is the point where you can put down your brush and realize that you haven't done the bases yet. But I still have some time left in that day, so let's get to it. And I also used this rust effect on the sword of the Great Unclean One, which came out amazing. And it's so goddamn simple. So I grabbed my favorite texture paste and I quickly textured every single base. And with quickly I mean it took me 1.5 hours. You see, the issue is if you have very tiny miniatures, there isn't much space between, well, the belly and the ground. So you end up being quite careful. Painting the finished base, on the other hand, was a breeze. Thanks to my favorite base paint in its capillary action. And here it doesn't matter if you paint a model a little bit. It's just dirt on those cute little feetsies. Then, to actually finish up the model, it was time to paint the rims. Unfortunately, while I was doing that, I noticed that with the small models on those quite big bases, the sand alone looked a little bit, well, sad and alone. And I was hoping to avoid that, but in the end I put some tufts on there. Which cost me a little bit more time, bringing me up to 14 hours. But it made all the difference. And that's it. I finished my army. 14 hours, 2 days, 2 forces. And I'm so happy with the results. The idea of having a miniature army. It's just awesome. Look at those little guys having such a big mass of infantry on so little space. I really like how my Khorne demons turned out. But to be honest, those Nurgle demons, it's just chef's kiss. I had, as I said before, no idea where I was going with that, but it turned out just awesome. I had so much fun painting this. And I think I will steal this color scheme for a future project. Whatever that may be, and especially the great unclean one. He turned out so disgusting, and I'm loving every part of it. And also those rot flies. When I saw those models, I thought to myself, boy, they are very large and not that many details. I hope they don't turn out too boring. And boy, was I wrong. I am really curious how those miniatures will look on the battlefield and how they will perform. Which brings me to... So this is where I would usually end the video, but not today. I need to save a friend. Hey buddy, are you winning?
What's going on?
Are you in a raid?
No.
Are you having an M+?
No.
Great, so you can pause the game.
Yeah.
I have a surprise for you, but first put this on so we have a proper audio.
Cool.
Ta-da! I made us a demon army.
That's miniatures.
You had demon ones.
Yeah, that kind.
And I only had the Empire army, so I thought I'd make us demon so we can finally play.
Well.
What was the last game we played? I don't think you played the 8th edition, did you?
I don't even know that there are editions. Back then we played Warhammer.
I think the last time we played it was the 7th edition, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no clue.
Can you remember the big regiments with 10 guys where you attacked from 3 ranks and everything was crazy?
I remember nothing.
Yeah, that's a common issue with you. So, well, now you can relive that.
Then let's relive that.
Do you want to play Khorne or Nurgle?
I really think those are very fun looking.
Alright, so Nurgle it is. So after refreshing his memory what Warhammer is and how the new rules are played, we started to set up the game. And as this is his first match since, well, ages, I decided we wouldn't use any terrain, as we are playing with 1,000-point armies anyway. And we are also going to use one little house rule. Every single demon has magical attacks, but they also have regeneration and a saving throw, but not against magical attacks. And as I thought this would reduce the game just to walking, attacking and dying, we agreed that we wouldn't play with magical attacks. Also, back in the day I was playing Wood Elves and he was playing demons, and I had a lot of forest spirits. And they had the same issue. He negated all my saving throws. It wasn't fun. So shortly after, we were ready to start. Are you ready for your first game in, I think, 12 years of Wargaming?
Absolutely not, and you know that.
Alright.
But I'm sure it's gonna be interesting.
Let's see who's going to start. 1d6. Oh look, it's a 5. And a 1. So we continue like we stopped the last time when we played.
There's a reason why I don't play this kind of game. It's pointless.
Well, I think it's my turn to start. So to explain this, we have a history together of playing games for now almost 22 years. And Fortuna is usually smiling down on me. I have a unholy record of rolling exceptionally well. And he doesn't. He actually came to the conclusion one day that if I'm playing with someone, I'm stealing their luck. Something that will come around and bite me in the ass. So I did what a good corn boy would do. I spent my first turn aggressively advancing. He, on the other hand, used his turn to try and intercept my Bloodthirster, who was trying to get after his Rotflies, and he was getting ready to use the only ranged attack in the game. The first dice roll.
So I use my Google Sheet to check.
Death heads.
Death heads.
Plague Riders. I think against my...
Yes. So... How many stuff do I do?
1 attack per guy, so 3 rolls.
A guy or?
Per guy, yeah. So even if there are 7 on those bases, they count as 3 guys. So you roll 3 attacks.
That's confusing.
It is confusing, but that's why I did this army, so no one knows what I'm playing.
Understandable.
You know, psychological warfare. It's the only way I win.
That is known.
Okay, so you roll 3 dice.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. You have move and shoot, so you don't get a malus for that. So that means you have ballistic skill of 3, I think. That would be a 4, and long range is a 5.
So it's nothing.
So 3 5s.
Nothing.
And at this point, I still thought it would be a replay of every single match we ever had. Which brought me to my second turn. I charged my Bloodletters into the Great Unclean One, and my Juggernauts into his Plague Bearers. And I placed my dogs and my Bloodthirster in positions where I could get a flanking attack off. And once again, just look how cool those armies look on the battlefield. But I bet I should have concentrated on the strategy. But this brought us to our first melee in the game. Weapon skill 5 against 6, so I hit you on 4s.
That's plenty of 2 4s.
That is 2 4s. Very forceful. Then strength 5. You have
Probably
toughness 7, I think.
Would that be?
Toughness.
Yes.
Toughness 7.
The strength
6s.
is...
Yeah, strength 4 plus 1 because I'm corn. So those are 6s. That one is cocked. We're not playing Slanesh here. Oh, look at that. Magically appeared to be the same.
Oh my.
I need it. And that is -2 on your armor. So you have 6 plus armor left. Alright. 5 plus save. and 5 plus a regeneration. First blood! 6 wounds left. It felt awesome cutting a big chunk out of this little potato, but it retaliated and murdered 4 of my guys. But I still won the combat by 1, but nothing happened. So at this point, Matt's 2-decade-old revenge came into full swing. And he started to become one with Nurgle, rolling 1 5er after another. But it's fine, I still had my dogs and my Bloodthirster. He spent his second turn by charging his snails into my bloodletters and moving his rotflies out of the way and shoot at my Bloodthirster, which once again did nothing. But then Montezuma's revenge continued to rain down on me, and he managed to almost entirely annihilate my Bloodletters regiment in one big swing, while suffering 1 wound in return. And at the same time, my Juggernauts weren't much luckier either. They managed to cut down a few more of those plague bearers, but were still decimated in return. I spent my third turn charging my hounds into the flank of his snails, and my Bloodthirster into the rear of his great unclean one. A horrible fate that you wish not even on your worst enemy. But I was certain that this would turn the scales of battle around. And it did! In Matt's favor. The combined 9 attacks from the Bloodthirster and another 9 attacks from those dogs managed to deal 2 more damage to those snails. Great! While he continued to deal some damage to my Bloodletters. He, on the other hand, spent his third turn charging his Rotflies into the flank of my Bloodthirster, getting all 3 of them in base contact. Unfortunately, in the ensuing melee, I managed to kill 1 of his snails and deal 2 more wounds to the second one. But he unfortunately managed to finish off my Bloodletter regiment and deal 5 damage to my Bloodthirster, bringing him down to 1 wound. Blessed by Nurgle today, he managed to save every single wound with his plague bearers and reduce my Juggernaut to 1 life. This is fine. So my Bloodthirster is down to 1 wound, and well, he's not my Bloodthirster. Matt has been saving like he's blessed by Nurgle, and I didn't do well with saves. But now that he's down to 1 wound, this was my saving roll. But unfortunately, if you play the game correctly and you actually let those Rotflies attack, then you die. Yeah. So with my Juggernauts and my Bloodthirster turned into dust, it all comes down to those doggos. You can do it, guys! But it's Matt's 4th turn and he managed to get a charge off with his Rotflies straight into my dogs. And his luck didn't show me any mercy at all, which brought an end to my dogs, my whole army, the game, and our friendship. Nice game.
Well, interesting.
I did not expect that. I mean, we played with house rules, but I did not expect that. I took basically nothing.
Yeah.
I would have to count it, but I don't think I even have points here. So I literally lost everything and did nothing. But as I said before, if you are going to get sick tomorrow, then you know why.
Yes.
Papa Nurgle wants his due. You rolled...
But did good?
Yes,
Did good?
You rolled so many saves. That was crazy.
And the poison then?
And the poison. So, did you have fun with you?
Yes, I think I did.
Nice. So I cured you. No more World of Warcraft. Only tabletop.
I think not.
Fine.
But it was fun.
Fine. A little bit of tabletop. Well,
Yes, I think once in 15 years is a reasonable dose. So,
sure.
see you on your 50th birthday.
I'm not that old.
Sure.
I'm 49 in 15 years. That's a difference. So that's that. Let sleeping dogs lie. I will go to bed now and cry myself to sleep. And remember, this video is an entry to the Unreasonable Wargaming Challenge 2025. So stay tuned for more entries from other miniature YouTubers over the course of the next few weeks. And also there is a link down in the description where you can find out more about the challenge. Thank you for watching, and I see you in the next one.